The Blohm Voss BV 222 Viking, pronounced Viking, was a large, six-engine German flying boat of World War II. Originally designed as a commercial transport, it was the largest German seaplane to attain production status during the war. Design and development. Prior to World War II, the German airline Luft Hansa had carried out many transatlantic mail flights. Their main interest was passenger transport, and they initiated a program in 1936 for which Hamburger Flugzeugbau offered the Ha-222, a very large flying boat designed by Dr. Richard Vogt. By the time an order for 3 was received and work began, the company had changed its name to that of its parent company, Blohm & Voss, and the design was redesignated the BV-222. Construction of the first prototype, V1, began in January 1938, with construction of the V2 and V3 following within weeks. V1 made its test flight on September 7, 1940, carrying the civil registration DNT. During trials it demonstrated that it could carry up to 92 passengers or 72 patients on stretchers over short distances at a maximum speed of 385 km per hour, 239 miles per hour. The flight characteristics were found to be satisfactory, but with some improvements required. Further trials lasted until December 1940, when the V1 passed into Luftwaffe service, receiving a military paint scheme and the Stammkennzeichen individual alphabetic military aircraft registration code of CC+EQ, later changed to the alphanumeric Geschwaderkennung wing code, designation of X4+AH, when in service with Lufttransportgruppe C-222. The type had a long flat floor inside the cabin and a large square cargo door aft of the wing on the starboard side, with such a flat floor for the hull interior being a welcome novelty for that era. The usual balance floats for a flying boat design were ingeniously designed as a matching pair of retracting float units per side, which extended from beneath the wing's outer panels in a clamshell fashion when fully extended and fit fully flush with the wing panels' undersides when retracted. Only 13 aircraft are thought to have been completed. Originally powered by Bramo 323 Fafner radial engines, later aircraft were powered by 6 746 kilowatts, 1,000 horsepower, Jumo 207C inline two-stroke opposed piston diesel engines. The use of diesels permitted refueling at sea by special resupply U-boats. C-13 aircraft was a sole example fitted with Jumo 205C and later Jumo 205D engines. Early aircraft were identified as V1 to V8. Production examples were designated C09 to C13. Originally powered by Bramo 323 Fafner radial engines, later aircraft were powered by 6 746 kilowatts, 1,000 horsepower, Jumo 207C inline two-stroke opposed piston diesel engines. The use of diesels permitted refueling at sea by special resupply U-boats. C-13 aircraft was a sole example fitted with Jumo 205C and later Jumo 205D engines. Early aircraft were identified as V1 to V8. Production examples were designated C09 to C13. V1 made 7 flights between Hamburg and Kirkenes up to August 19, 1941, transporting a total of 65,000 kilograms, 143,000 pounds, of supplies and 221 wounded men, covering a distance of 30,000 kilometers, 19,000 miles, in total. After being overhauled at Hamburg, V1 was sent to Athens, from where it carried supplies for the Africa Corps, making 17 flights between October 16 and November 6, 1941. The V1 was at this time unarmed, and was given an escort of 2 Messerschmitt Bf 110 heavy fighters. Following these flights, the V1 returned to Hamburg to have defensive armament fitted, comprising a 7.92 mm, .312 in, MG-81 machine gun in the hull, 2 turret-mounted 13 mm, .51 in, MG-131 machine guns, and 4 7.92 mm, .312 in, MG-81s in waist mounts. The registration was changed to X4+AH at the same time, and the V1 formed the basis for the new Air Transport Squadron Lufttransportstaffel 222, LTS-222. Between 1942 and 1943, the aircraft flew in the Mediterranean theater, until in mid-February 1943 it sank following a collision with a submerged wreck while landing at Piraeus Harbor. The V2 CC+ER made its first flight on August 7, 1941, and after extensive testing was assigned to LTS-222 on August 10, 1942 as X4+AB. Since the aircraft was intended for long-distance over-water flights, in addition to the armament fitted to the V-1, it received two rear-facing wing-mounted turrets with dual 13mm (.51 in) MG-131s, accessed via the tubular wing spar, which was 1 meter (3 feet 3 inches) in diameter. In 1944, the V-2 participated in Operation Schatzgräber, Treasure Seeker, the code name of a German weather station at Alexandra Land in the Arctic, whose sick crew needed to be evacuated. The BV-222 dropped a spare wheel for a FW-200 which had sustained damage during landing near the station. The V-3, initially DM plus SD, first flew on November 28, 1941, and was transferred to LTS-222 on December 9, 1941. After V-1 sinking, V-3 returned to Hamburg where it was armed. It was destroyed along with V-5 on June 20, 1943 at Biscarrosse by RAF de Havilland Mosquitoes of No. 264 Squadron RAF. V-4, which had an altered height tail, was also assigned to LTS-222 for Africa flights. V-6 was shot down on August 21, 1942 on the Taranto to Tripoli route by a Bristol Bow fighter. V-8 was shot down on the same route on December 10, 1942. The V-7 TB plus QL, which made its first flight on April 1, 1943, was fitted with six 746 kilowatts, 1,000 horsepower, Jumo 207C inline two-stroke diesel engines. With a takeoff weight of 50,000 kilograms, 110,000 pounds, and a range of 6,100 kilometers, 3,800 miles, it was intended as the prototype BV-222C. Following the invasion of Normandy in June 1944, the remaining BV-222 aircraft were transferred to KG-200. 7 of these, C-09 was probably the BV-222 reported to have been strafed and destroyed by Hawker Typhoon aircraft of No. 439 Squadron RCAF on April 24, 1945 at Seedorf. 8 V-7 and V-4 were scuttled by their crews at Travemünde and Kiel-Holtenau Airport respectively, at the end of the war. C-10 was probably the BV-222 reported shot down southwest of Biscarrosse on the night of February 8, 1944 by a Mosquito of No. 157 Squadron RAF. 6-9. One BV-222, V-4, is said to have shot down a U.S. Navy PB-4Y-1 Liberator of VB-105, BU number 63917, commanded by Lieutenant Evert, on October 22, 1943. Since the war, this has often been mistakenly quoted as a BV-222 shooting down an Avro Lancaster.